We can add to and extend the functionality of our Platformatic applications by creating Fastify plugins. In this video, we'll learn how to create a plugin and configure our application to use it. Here we have a basic Platformatic DB app. We already have Platformatic installed as a dependency, and we've got our Platformatic config file. So let's go ahead and start up the server. And now that it's started, we can go ahead and make a request to it. So we can see that our database for our server is actually full of a few databases here. So we've got some data in our database, and we're now going to go ahead and actually create our plugin. So we can create a new file, plugin.js, and inside of it we're going to actually define a module export, and that's going to be an async function. Platformatic supports Fastify plugins. Now, we've got full documentation available for us here in the Fastify docs, which explain everything about how Fastify plugin works. And there's also another guide here which covers really in depth everything that you can do and all the functionality that's available. In this video, we're just going to look at some of the basics about how we can get a Fastify plugin up and running. So let's head back to our plugin and notice a couple of things here, that we must use the async keyword so that Fastify knows when the code inside our plugin has finished running. And we also must accept a Fastify server instance. In this case, we've called it app. If we want to, we can actually also go ahead and install any package from npm into our application, and then we can actually import it here. Now we're going to go ahead and configure our Platformatic app to use this plugin. So in our Platformatic config file, we're going to go ahead and set the path, and this is a file path to plugin.js, the file that we just created containing our Fastify plugin. And then if we head back into our terminal and take a look at our running process, we should see that it's noticed the config has changed and it's actually gone ahead and restarted our server. Now, to actually make this a bit more useful, we're going to head back into our plugin here, and we're going to add in a log line. Now we've got the logger automatically available for us, so we can do app.log.info, and we'll say that the plugin's been loaded. Now when we save that, we can see that our server's restarted, and we've got that plugin loaded message coming out here in our terminal, which is great. Now, if we actually want to get some kind of auto-completion on types for this, we can go ahead and at the top here, add in a reference. So this is going to be a reference for our types path. So this is actually a file that's automatically generated for us by Platformatic based on the different data or the entities that we have inside of our database. So we can see here that global.d.ts file contains different types, and here we've got our movie type. We saw some of the data coming out of our API for that earlier, and here we've got that type in the types directory, which actually shows us what kind of fields are available on our movie entity. So that's great, and by pulling that in here into our plugin file with this reference, we can then actually go ahead and add some JS doc syntax, which allows us to handle getting some types on our Fastify plugin. So here we're going to say import Fastify instance, and that'll be for app. And we can see that in action if we go ahead here and type app dot, and then we can see Platformatic. We can see that that's here, and that's an object that's available and that's decorated automatically for us onto our Fastify app instance by Platformatic. So we can see here some of the things that are available to us. Now we'll dig into that in just a minute. In the meantime, if we want a little bit more stricter type checking, we can actually go ahead and add an @tscheck line at the top here, and in editors that support it, it will automatically type check our JavaScript code for us. This can help us catch typos and mistakes nice and early. So let's actually go ahead and use that app.platformatic object that we were just looking at. So here we can go and retrieve some data from our database and log it out. So we're going to call app.platformatic.entities. And then if we actually take a look, we've got that movie entity. So that's coming through from those types that we've been pulling in there from the top, which is super handy. And now we can go and call .find on that. And we're going to actually pull out a bit of data from these movies that we're getting back. So we're going to say movies.map, and then inside of that, we'll just take out the movie year. And again, we can see the properties that are available on our movies. We can see year is there, and then we can go ahead and log it out using that app.log.info method that we used a little earlier. So now if we save that and take a look back in our terminal, we'll see that once the plugin was loaded, it restarted, and we've got all the years being output here for those movies coming out of the database. Pretty neat. We've created a single plugin here, but if we want to, we can actually go ahead and create multiple plugins to load with our Platformatic app. So let's go and create a new folder, plugins, and inside of that, we're going to move our plugin.js, and we're going to rename that. So let's rename that to be plugin-year, and we'll just fix this path here because everything's up a directory, and we're going to say plugin loaded year, and we'll change the name of that, and then we're going to actually copy this file and create something a little bit similar. And inside this one, this is going to be one for getting back out the movie titles. So we'll say plugin title. And so we'll say the plugin has been loaded title. And then here, instead of year, we'll see that we can pull out the title. And we'll just change the variable name here to bring it up to date. And once we've got that, we can go ahead and log it out. So now we've got these two separate plugins, title and year. And that means that we can have separate functionality encapsulated in its own plugin. Now, in order to load these, we need to go ahead and actually update our configuration a little bit here. So instead of this single path, we're now going to change it to be an array, and we're going to just point to the plugins directory that we've just created and put these multiple plugins in. Now, if we head back to our app, we can see that it's gone ahead and loaded our plugins. There was an error here whilst we changed a few things, but now we can see that the plugin loaded title, and then our titles for our movies have been output, and then also the year one was uploaded in too, and we can see that then the years have been output. So we've been able to create multiple plugins. The plugins that we created here have been created with JavaScript. If we want to actually use TypeScript for our plugins, that's totally possible with Platformatic. We can do that when we actually run the npm create Platformatic command. It asks us if we want to use TypeScript, and we can say yes, and that will go ahead and create a Platformatic app that is configured to use TypeScript. And you'll get all that kind of hot reloading goodness and everything working there too.